Hey there, it's Andrea, and welcome to the Voice of Influence podcast. The day that we release this episode is Independence Day in the United States, and there'll be a lot of fireworks. There'll be lots of people who spend lots of money on fireworks that go up into the air and make these great, big, beautiful scenes. But then there'll be some fireworks, that sort of fizzle at the bottom. There's always bound to be a few of those as well. And I find it kind of interesting that on this day where we think so much about independence and the ability to make our life what we want it to be, there's a lot of people who are suffering, a lot of leaders who are looking at their jobs and feeling trapped, or they're feeling like they want to get out. Burnout is happening all the time. People are burning out, they're burning up. It's a tough situation right now when you have so many things going on and a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation, and not enough people to carry the load. It's a tough situation for everyone. And so today I wanted to bring up a few things that might be helpful to help you assess what might actually be going on if you might have leaders who are suffering from burnout. And then what might you do about it? When does it make sense to actually do something about this issue? So when you're trying to assess whether or not people are feeling burnt out, you can flat out ask them, of course, but not everybody is going to give you the truthful answer. And it's not always easy to even ask because sometimes you sort of poke that bear and you're afraid of what might come out. But if you're taking a step back and you're thinking about it for yourself, like right now, just thinking about it, are you seeing more avoidance? Are you seeing more confrontation? So here's what avoidance and confrontation can look like. The confrontation piece is pretty easy to spot. It's the short fuse. It's somebody who is more easily angered. They're irritable. Maybe there's more erratic decision making. They might be sharing biting comments more often or bite back a little harder than they usually do. You can see this sort of confrontational situation just continue to rise up and escalate. Tensions escalate. That is a little easier to see than avoidance. So avoidance, what might avoidance look like? Because some people are not just automatically going to go to the outwardly expressing confrontation and frustration and anger. Some people are going to be more inwardly concerned and they'll bring it in on themselves. And it's these quiet people who don't always get the attention, don't always have people asking them how they're doing and that sort of thing. So let's pay attention to these folks too. So in this case, we're looking for people who might be dragging their feet to make decisions, not wanting to make any changes because maybe they're afraid that they might get it wrong. Maybe they're feeling like they just don't have the bandwidth to deal with it, so they're just not going to do it. Quiet people can become even more quiet or withdrawn. That can look like not participating in anything that's an optional activity or refusing to talk about what they're struggling with. They might be in their head more. You can tell that they're kind of hunkered down and thinking rather than talking to people, being playful, that sort of thing. They might also seem like they're not very present. Their presence is often something that you notice more at home or in their safe space. Because somebody who is going to become more withdrawn might put up a good front at work just to get through the day. And then they go home and they're very withdrawn. and that's where they take it out on themselves. That's where they end up feeling all the emotion that was kind of pent up all day long. So how people are doing at home matters too. Are you seeing more avoidance? Are you seeing more confrontation? It's really hard. It's really hard to know what people are thinking if they don't say it. But those are some different signs that you can be looking for to see if maybe this is something that this burnout situation might actually be something that you should have concerns about. Now, what are some different questions that you can ask that would help you to kind of guide yourself through this process of figuring out whether or not you need to do anything about it? First question I want to suggest that you ask: if our leaders are feeling discouraged or overwhelmed, feeling like they don't have the capacity, how could that possibly be seeping into the employee experience? A lot of times it does. Think about how that does that. It can come in the form of extra work for other people. It can come in the form of confrontation, because a leader might be more likely to be more frustrated with things. There might be more of that, like pushback and that sort of thing. Or it could be that they are experiencing that the leader is being more quiet. If the leader's being more avoidant, then that leaves people saying, well, wait a second, what am I supposed to do? Or why isn't the leader paying attention to me? What did I do wrong? And there can be all these different things that come up that add to the confusion, frustration of the team if the leader isn't in a healthy place for themselves. Another question to ask is, are we at just like a bump in the road where we just have to kind of push through? And then once we get to the other side, we're going to be at a more normal pace? Or have we thought that that's what was going on, and then it turns out this is actually not a sprint, it's a marathon? That we're going to be at this pace for a long time ahead if we don't do something about it. If it's just this short term, like we just need to get over the hump kind of thing, a lot of times you can just communicate that with everybody and let them know, hey, this is the light at the end of the tunnel. This is how you'll know when we're almost there. And this is why it all matters. And when people hear that, a lot of times they're willing to push through until the end. But if there's no end in sight, that's where people start to feel monotonous kind of feeling of being trapped in this situation that they can't get out of. So are we at that little bump in the road, or are we looking at a more long-term situation where things are going to be tough for a while? Number 3, questions to ask when you are trying to decide, is it worth doing anything about how people are feeling at work? Are our leaders being honest and forthcoming about how they feel, what they're experiencing? Or are they just trying to power through so they don't feel like that they're a failure, or that they don't look like they're weak? Do you think that our leaders are actually being honest with us about where they're at? Or are we seeing these other behaviors start to pop up? And maybe they don't even know. Maybe they don't even know how they're actually feeling. But we're seeing these behaviors that just are not going to work. We cannot keep having people dragging their feet on making decisions. We can't keep having people bite back at comments and not participate and that sort of thing. Like, what's going on? Is it something that you need to actually address? And the last question I want to pose is, think about where you're at. If you've answered yes to any of these questions, if you think that maybe there is a concern that, yeah, we really are experiencing a heavy weight of burden and burnout and feeling like it's just too much, people feeling discouraged. If you yourself, as the CEO or as the leader of the organization, if you yourself are feeling that burnout and discouragement, then it's very likely that other people are as well. Ask yourself, if this continues and we don't address this issue of burnout and feeling discouraged, what will happen? As one of my mentors says, play that movie forward. What are the likely outcomes? People quitting, people quiet quitting, people frustrated with each other, seeing more conflict. It's really frustrating as a leader when you put so much into your work, when you've thrown yourself into your business and you've given all you can give and you feel like you're providing this really great work environment, and then you find out that people are not happy. That is super discouraging. But it's also normal. It's normal. So it's not like you can't do something about it. There are things that you can do to lighten the load, to communicate in a different way so that people feel more understood and feel like they matter, all kinds of things. But sometimes it takes that extra nudge, that guide that's outside of your business who can come in with a different perspective and listen and help you to know what exactly is going on, help you to discern and navigate through the things that you're experiencing. So, Voice of Influence offers coaching. We have some great coaches who are very experienced in leading organizations, coaches who are really good at knowing and understanding people and how they function and the dynamics of influence, how to make things work better, how to take care of yourself, those kinds of things that you need in order to address this issue of burnout inside of your organization. We offer it for executives and executive retreats, executive package. We offer it in the form of leadership coaching or manager coaching. We also offer it in the form of office hours, where if you have a team that you know is struggling and they just need to be able to talk to somebody every once in a while, we can offer a block of hours, maybe once a week or once a month, where people can come in and have a conversation that will help them to break through little pieces of their experience that will help them be better communicators and make better decisions, hear their own voice, and figure out how to navigate through those things. Voice of Influence coaching can help you resolve difficult situations way more quickly. There's a lot of people that we've worked with who have been holding on to things or trying to figure out how they're going to handle a certain kind of situation. And they've been holding on to it for so long, but then when we talk through it, and they have that person to bounce around ideas, they have that outside perspective, then they're able to move more quickly and confidently to navigate through that. It's the same thing with conflict. You can do that with more courage, with also more humility. There's also this level of loneliness at the top. We know this. We know it well. And it can be really difficult to know who you can trust, to know who to share your actual concerns with, because even people that are on your executive team, you may not want to share the things that are weighing on you as much. There may be some things that you are completely comfortable sharing, but there may be other things that you don't want to put that weight of responsibility on that other person. Maybe they're struggling with some of their own things. It's nice to have that outside perspective to process the way that you're thinking about it and how you want to work through it before you bring it to your team. So if you're interested in coaching, if you feel like, you know what, we are experiencing burnout, we need some help. If we don't deal with this in the next few months, we're going to have really high value talent leaving our organization or potentially leaving our organization, or even while they're here, maybe making poor decisions. What is that risk? How are you going to manage that risk? Coaching is one of the quickest, most direct ways to dealing with that issue. You can always throw a training program at something. We love trainings. We love conducting trainings. But I tell you what, when it comes to this issue of burnout, if you put a training on people when they're experiencing that feeling of burnout, that's like they're having to take on more. Instead, you want to be able to give people the extra support so that they can release more and be able to continue to move forward, so that you don't have to play that movie forward and see the negative consequences, so that hopefully you can mitigate those risks as much as possible. So, leadership lesson for today is pay attention to the way that people are interacting. Are they avoiding, or are they even more confrontational than normal? And if so, how is that impacting the organization? Play that movie forward. Think about how that's going to impact things in the future. Is it worth doing something about now? And if it is, if you're concerned that in the next 6 months it's going to be a problem, give us a call. We'll talk through it. We'll see if they're the right fit. Follow Andrea Joy Winberg on LinkedIn and Twitter, and come to voiceofinfluence.net. Hit our contact button to be able to have a conversation. Find out, is Voice of Influence the right fit for you? Your voice matters, and you can make it matter more.